Hello everybody, it's great to see you again. We're back with another review for you today. Just to take a quick moment to clarify, there is a difference between the reviews and the fail tales. Fail tales are really just focused on the amusing failures that have happened out there, ones that have come from my memory and a couple other people's memories that go way, way, way back to the early days of D&D and other tabletop role-playing games. So, it's the Druid with no name. Now, this is about an elf. Yeah, I know, dwarves, elves, the whole 9 yards. And yes, we don't like elves. As a whole, dwarves don't really think elves are worth very much, so let's face it. But today's story is from an elf, and it's a fascinating story, and I think perhaps maybe a cautionary one. So, without further ado, I'm going to turn you over to our reviewer. Excuse me. And remind you that if you like what you're seeing and you would like more content of the same, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Look for ways to share us with your friends, and we'll see you again at the end of the review. Thank you. Hello, everybody. It's Red Hornhelm here, back again with another fine review. Today we have something different. It's an elf, so you can't win them all. But as a dwarf, we'll be fair. We'll make sure that we laugh not too much. Something. We'll work it out. Today's one is a interesting character. This is a druid in the 5e system. And the name of the character is the Druid with no name, affectionately referred to by the party members in this character's group as Blank. So, Blank the Druid is a wood elf moon druid female, 5th level, so not the highest level yet, and still learning. And this one would be at home in California. There's no two ways about it. It's all about the fruits and the nuts and the trees and the woodland creatures and butterflies and unicorns and things like that. This is brought to us by Kyle, who lives in the Elgin area of northern Illinois. And like I said, it's an interesting character for a dwarf to review. Now, you're going to see from the picture here, it looks kind of like a cross between an elf and a fungus among us. Nah, just kidding, folks. This is supposedly a very attractive elf, but one who lives in the woods, so bits of fur and fronds from trees and flowers in her hair, and I want to know exactly what kind of forest plants she's been eating, because I'm thinking that, she's out there in La La Land. But that's okay. I think that about most elves. In any case, dwarves. Elves, we don't get along that well. Now, this is a very excellent creature in the sense that it's born into a woodland setting, and very unfortunately was lost to her family. And because she was lost at a very, very young age, the forest took over the job to raise her. It would cooperate with this elven, sylvan type creature by showing it where water was and gesturing with branches full of fresh berries and making the bears go in the other direction and things like this. So she learned from nature. She learned what she could about the magical world around her from her forest friends. She clothed herself. She learned to eat. She helped fertilize the forest, and all the things that are required to make an elf at one with nature. Frickin' elves. In any case, one day, out in the forest, she sees rustling in the bushes and sees a poor, tortured creature that needs help. Well, because she's one of these forest freaks, she has to go over and help them, of course. I mean, that goes along with the whole elf thing, right? Us dwarves have much simpler results that we get from simpler actions. You know, a quick hammer to the head, problem's gone. But that's not what happened here. She rescued this creature. And though they could not communicate, this poor creature, a halfling, by the way, hardly worth rescuing, they were then introducing her to the rest of the players who were there and found out that amongst the lack of many talents that she has is the ability to communicate with the rest of her party. Doesn't know Common, knows a bit of Sylvan, but there's only one other character in the group who speaks Sylvan. So communication's very difficult. A lot of charades, right? Got to try and figure out what's going on. But she is very attractive, and as she joins this group and learns more of the world, she gets to go into towns and cities, which she hates, and she learns that her attractiveness, well, when she walks through town and all the guys see her go by, all the cod pieces are going pop, 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 pop as she walks by. She doesn't know what that means, and that's probably a good thing. Humans are pigs, let's face it. So, that's her appearance. That's a little bit about what she is and how she operates and how difficult it is for her to get things done in this world because she can't communicate. Not that I think elves are really good about communicating anyways. They just like to pose a lot, you know. They're doing the elvish thing, looking nice for all their homies. That's great. That's fine. But that's not dwarvish. So, okay. So, with all of this, what kind of epic successes or epic failures has this poor dwarf, good lord, has this poor elf run into? Well, it's interesting. They were being chased through the forest by these very nasty bugs that could not only spit fire, but under the wrong circumstances, they would explode and cause damage. Well, they were overwhelming this small, young party. And she, in her desire to help what she perceived to be as her fellow pack members, boy, this elf is, oh well. She stepped in front of them and using her druidic magic, summoned forth ice that provided a barrier to the fire that was coming their direction. And using every last bit of energy that she had, she kept the ice in place until one of her fellow members who had needed rest, all of her fellow members needed rest. She warded them. She kept them safe. She kept everything else away while these bugs were trying to get in there, using up her magic and drawing it from all the water that they carried, the water in their bodies, the water that took away everything she had in terms of energy. And as they stepped forward and told her she could relax, she collapsed in a heap. Almost died. Well, as the saying goes, can't always have a happy ending. So she lived. Oh, wait, that's the dwarf talking. So after she lived, she was nursed back to health by her party and well thanked by everyone involved for her great and noble sacrifice, which is indeed an epic success. So what about epic failures? Something may have happened. Oh yeah. Communication. They were going through a dungeon, and with her elvish abilities, they have abilities? Really? Oh, sorry, dwarf talking, and was able to spot something on the wall that she knew was off, probably related to something bad. So she pointed it out to everybody. Not being able to communicate, all she was able to do was gesture and point. Of course, this is where the miscommunication part comes in. The rest of the party thought she had found something really cool and interesting, and they went and attacked this spot on the wall where she was trying to communicate there was trouble. They just saw it as an opportunity. So using her druidic abilities, she shapeshifted into a wolf because she had seen dogs bark and growl in towns at people, and people stepped back. So she thought she could communicate to the rest of the party that they needed to step back by turning into a wolf and growling at them and trying to keep them away. Humans, being humans, of course, saw that, laughed, ignored it, rushed around her, and started again at the wall, which triggered a trap that not only got the people screwing with the wall, but also got our poor druid. Much damage was sustained. People may have died. I don't know. I was too busy laughing. I thought that was the perfect way for an elf to help the party. Ha 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 ha. Not what I expected. And this was truly an epic failure. A lack of communication. Though I'm not sure if the failure was the event itself or in choosing a character that wouldn't allow you to communicate with other people that were there. Must have been fun from the Dungeon Master's perspective on this one. So that's a little bit about Blank the Druid. Well, how does Blank the Druid want to be remembered? Blank the Druid wants to be remembered really not at all. She sees herself as a forest spirit, and the forest spirits don't care about what happens after death. So she really has no ambitions on how she wants to be remembered. She wants to be a good pack member, taking care of her friends, her pack, and doing it in such a way as to help everybody in the process. Very interesting, very interesting. So I talked to my fellow Hornhelm colleagues and said, well, what do you think about this? Well, after the usual 10 minutes of grousing about the fact that it's an elf and how can we think anything good about it, we have to remember that we're here to give impartial and supportive reviews. Boy, this was tough. So, what do we do for Nature Girl here? We thought it through quite a bit, and we have to say that we have a great deal of respect for the player sticking to their guns with a very difficult selection on both character type and background, and how they roleplay and interact. This is very challenging. So lots of points for that. But then it's an elf that has to adventure in a party, and it makes it very challenging for all around it to be able to communicate and have it be a normalized member of a adventure group. So, mixed thoughts. First off, excuse me, on the epic success, very good, very appropriate, very self-sacrificing, certainly impressive, better than we thought of from an elf, especially because, who knows, I mean, there could have been a dwarf in the party, and if they were defending them, well, then that makes it even more special. So, from an epic success standpoint, we're going to give this one a 7. Now, on the epic failure, this was truly amusing to read. It, I'm sure, was amusing to watch at the time, and frustrating for a number of people involved on this. It was an interesting failure, and one that could have been avoided. But it happened nonetheless, and a lot of it had to do with the circumstances that this character brings to the table. We thought that was pretty epic. So on the epic failure side, we gave it an 8. Now, overall, a lot of the comments I just made continue into our overall review. We think it's very cool that this character worked so hard to develop such an interesting and difficult to play persona and has stuck with it. So from an overall impression standpoint, when we consider all things being equal and keeping the whole elf thing out of the equation, we think that they're a 8 out of 10. So you've got 8 out of 10 for that. You have 8 out of 10 on the epic failure, 16, and 7 for the epic success, so 23. That's a very respectable score for blank the Druid. So hopefully you found that interesting. Oh, one last very important thing was, would we have blank the Druid in our party? Well, I think for the first time in the reviews, we're going to say we're going to leave blank at the moment. We don't see how this Druid would interact well, number one, because there's a bunch of dwarves in the party. Number two, it can't speak to any of us. Number three, Druids are wimpy. So, yeah, we can't see. I mean, it's just not going to work for us. Good character, has its place out there, just not in our party. So, but overall, very respectable showing, 23 points. Well done to blank, the Druid with no name. And we'll be back again soon with another review for you. So, I imagine you found that to be a little bit different. We were fairly kind, given the fact that we're dwarves and this is an elf. But that's something very different, and certainly keeping it within the greater fantasy context of 5e. This is very well thought out character, but also given the nature of many of the players that are out there, I have a feeling it gets more than its fair share of fun poked at it. So in any case, we hope you enjoyed today's review. Look for us to come back with more reviews, interviews, fascinating fail tales. The content will grow as time goes on. So like I said, if you enjoy this, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, open your notifications to us, and share this with your friends. Thank you so much for being here. We look forward to seeing you again soon. And remember, dwarves rock.